Altdorf, the capital of the Empire, and perhaps one of the greatest cities in the world. Where to begin on its many wonders? The colleges of magic, perhaps, renowned as one of the greatest institutions of magic in the world? What of the University of Altdorf itself? Or even the Imperial Engineers School, both responsible for so much knowledge and progress over the last 100 years or so. Truly, I could go on. Altdorf is indeed a gem without equal, at least in this humble scholar's opinion. I am glad to call it my home, and grateful to live in such a time as I do now. For things can surely only continue to prosper and improve under the watch of our great Emperor Karl Franz. No matter how dark things could become in the future, I believe as long as Altdorf stands, the Empire cannot fail. This is Red Moon Role-Playing. The coach continues to move along quite rapidly down the old Imperial Road. The pace of your journey has quickened significantly since yesterday evening. It's almost as if mutants on the road has made the coachman want to move an awful lot quicker. That, combined with the road warden escort, has meant that actually you are now arriving near the city of Altdorf in the early morning, having ridden pretty much the entire night. So while it wasn't a very restful night, you are actually arriving slightly earlier than you expected. I'm sure some of you will be happy about this. The early rays of morning begin to shine over the marshlands that lie just to the north of the city of Altdorf. Finally, the woods parting and allowing you a bit of a wider view. The marshlands are populated by small farming villages, and yes, you can now see, even from this distance, the great city of Altdorf, capital of the Empire, its glistening white walls resplendent in the morning rays of the sun. You can even see from here some of the great structures: the Imperial Palace, the High Temple of Sigmar, and of course the slightly erratic towers of the Colleges of Magic. Truly an impressive view, at least from this distance. As the coach rattles along the road, let us return to our three travellers on top of said wagon: Siegfrieda, Heinrich, and Kruger. What are the three of you doing as morning finally dawns, and you can see the great city ahead of you?
I'm terribly excited. I've lived through this. Since the time I was old enough to conceptualize that living in the swamp on the rivers could suck, I have known it sucks, and I have wanted nothing more than to see this part of the world. So I'm imagining that if Siegfried is reading a book, she will find it interrupted by me just blurting out some vulgar euphemism like, oh god, isn't that the milkman's bollocks? Just sheer awe on my face. I didn't know they could make buildings this high.
I will look up from my book at that remark and, squinting in the light at the buildings, I'll say, yeah, the milkman's bollocks, indeed. I'm no student of architecture, but I imagine a number of workers must have died to construct something like this on their shoulders. Just think of those ill-equipped builders who were having to steeplejack their way up the walls and towers to pierce the clouds like that, and they probably had no way of getting back down safely. Fascinating stuff. I'll return to my book.
Indeed, perhaps for you, Siegfrieda, it's not that impressive of you. After all, Middenheim is also an impressive walled city. Maybe not quite as white-walled, but maybe all the cities look the same after a time.
I too look at the city as we are approaching. I mean, I grew up in Nuln, which is a splendid city of its own right, really. Not quite what Altdorf is. We've always had a little bit of a jealousy, I suppose, about Altdorf taking over as sort of the center of the empire. It'll be interesting to see if it's similar to Nuln, if the streets are as dirty, if there's as much gangs and nefarious activity going on here as there is in Nuln. If there is, I'm sure I can learn a few things, and if we end up staying here for, well, more than a few moments, I might even be able to procure something that we will need for the journey to Bogenhafen.
Well, you certainly will be able to find a boat, if nothing else. After all, Altdorf is built on the River Reich. The great river passes straight through the city of Altdorf, as well as several other smaller canals, lakes, and streams. That's why the smell is quite pungent as you begin getting closer to Altdorf. Thankfully, it isn't summer, but I'm sure you can imagine how the city smells when all those rivers and marshlands begin to swelter in the sun. Altdorf's quite famous for its smell, although apparently you get used to it.
It's well known that disease travels faster in the summer months. In a place like this, the heat draws about a miasma, makes the gases thicker, they hang around on the lungs harder, and pestilence spreads. This is why it's always better to dwell in cold climes or as far away from the dumping grounds of corpses and sewage as possible.
Certainly true. And as you're thinking those thoughts, you begin getting closer to the great city and perhaps seeing a slightly different view. After all, those white walls did truly look impressive from far away. As you get closer, you begin to see the faded cracks in the paint and masonry, the crumbling ruins on some parts of the walls, and of course, the muck and filth that cover the entire bottom of all the walls. Maybe not quite as resplendent as it was a minute ago.
No, I think despite that, I'm still very much like a dog with his head out the window. Like, it just... Even the fact that there's that much human excrement is shocking. Just how many people live here. I cannot be dissuaded from awe.
I look at the filth and I think, well, that's promising. It probably means that this is a city like all the others. That's a place where I can thrive.
I'll attach my beaked mask to my face. It isn't lengthy and obscene like something from the Renaissance or that period. It does still have a vaguely bird-like shape about it, though. The nostrils are stuffed with mint leaves, garlic, other such fragrant herbs. I'm firmly of the school of belief that disease travels through gases, that wasting illness is a symptom of intoxicants in the air. Whether true or not, I don't know, but I certainly believe it to be the case, and frankly anyone who doesn't cover up their noses and mouths in the same way I am is running the risk of imminent death.
It certainly does help with the smell, and also in a way makes you feel a little more secure, which is always nice. You begin to ride in through one of the main gates into the city of Altdorf. You finally lose your road warden escort. Their job is done. But the coach still has a little way to go before arriving at its official destination. You believe it was a coaching house called the Four Sprues, or something like that. That's where you were supposed to turn up, according to the original job offer, to then continue finding work. But for now, you start hitting the traffic of the streets. And yes, Kruger, now you see the people. Hundreds of people, even just on this one road you're on now, coming and going, running back and forth between buildings. There are other coaches coming in different directions. It is surprisingly packed and full of activity, even at this time of the day. As you look around, Heinrich, being in awe of the place, you will then, of course, see the buildings. Granted, now the buildings aren't quite as grand. These are simple houses, or warehouses, all cobbled together, built almost directly next to each other. Some of the buildings look like they have 3 to maybe 4 floors, and some of them look much shorter, but it's sometimes hard to tell where one building begins and the other ends. It's not exactly very well planned. Some of these buildings seem to literally just be springing out of other buildings. It's almost a bit chaotic when you think about it.
You're understating it. That's doubled the amount of building I'm used to. This is... I didn't know this could exist.
It is impressive, and of course made all the more impressive by the multitude of banners. The most popular, of course, being banners representing various iconography, various icons of Sigmar. The most popular, of course, being the skull, a half skull, said to represent the timeless nature of humanity. Even in death, the skull endures. It is in several places, mostly in big statues, very popular. And so you continue down this street, thriving with activity. What a multitude of people, Siegfrieda, not just humans, but halflings, dwarves. You even see an elf or two, and, even an ogre there carrying a very heavy bundle of something to some place.
Oh, even I can't hide my excitement to seeing other peoples about this city. I mean, the majority of my medical training, such as it was on humans, of course, and I've read books, mostly stolen from my mentor, on the physiology of other creatures, and so I know a little, but I've certainly never seen an ogre in the flesh. My eyes immediately go to the muscles straining in his shoulders, arms, and back. I'm looking at the way he thuds one foot in front of the other, straining under the weight, and I'm imagining what kind of weight can he support? Where is the strain being placed that might differ on a human? Is there more muscle mass there? Are the ligaments perhaps stronger, maybe doubled? And then I'm taking notes just from observing basic citizen behavior. But anatomically, a marvel. How much more breath does he have to take to keep a heart, no doubt much larger than ours, beating?
Why don't you make a law medicine check?
So, I roll a 22 against my 58.
Plenty of success levels. The thing that intrigues you most, that you now see in the flesh, is the belly. For ogres are well known, apparently, for having extremely large guts, which they care about a great deal. This particular ogre is wearing some sort of very large metal breastplate, but only on the belly. It is said that ogre society cares a great deal about the belly, and the bellies themselves extend to far, far larger than would seem scientifically plausible. But there you can see it right there. Massive on this one.
I make some notes idly. I mean, this may be pseudoscience, but I'm contemplating how much of the bovine or porcine is there about the ogre. Maybe there's more than one stomach in that capacious sack. I'm not looking at them in my view, a morbid fashion. I'm not thinking I'd love to cut one of those up. Although there is a certain part of that playing around in my head. It's more just wonder, where my colleagues are looking at buildings and the mass of people, even dung heaps, with wonder. Just the sheer physical motion of these beings moving from place to place, and how that may differ even minutely from how a human might flex and turn and pace is really bewitching me.
It certainly is quite impressive. Heinrich, you're in awe of the buildings, so perhaps it's Kruger who we will let have a slight perception roll, just as you're looking over the crowds.
Indeed, I am keeping my eyes open for, other people in my line of business, if nothing else, but to make sure that we don't get pickpocketed. That is a 49 against 43, so that is a failure.
You do try and keep an eye out for anything too suspicious, although sadly it's very difficult. There are just so many people, and they're all moving around very quickly. In fact, it's a bit odd really. you see almost no one just going for a stroll. Everyone is running or shouting. You think you hear two coachmen just beside your coach having an argument. Get out of my way! Don't get out of my way! It's odd, there's plenty of space on the road. Well, there should be if people just moved out of the way, but everyone is in a hurry, everyone's in a rush. You get this very strange feeling. You feel as if something oppressive is in the air. It's odd. Is it the heat? Granted, it shouldn't be that hot, it's only spring, but there is something in the smell and the air that makes you feel a bit irritable, and you generally find it hard to actually focus on anyone in particular. You do notice a couple of young children are beginning to scout out your coach, and yes, those are the eyes of young pickpockets, but they're keeping a distance. They're keeping a distance at least. But yes, it's very hard to actually focus. You're getting very irritable.
I turn to my companions, and I say, people here seem even more irritable than back in Nuln. Is this what capitals do to people?
I think I can explain a little bit about why Kruger might not have been so aware, because Heinrich looks like a total prick right now, like peacockish, as he's doing what he believes duelists should do, and walking like head high and probably attracting attention from the people who are marking us. So when you make that comment, he just totally baffled. Like, I'm sorry, what?
No, just you see all the people. There's people fighting, yelling at each other. It seems I don't know. Maybe I've just gotten used to the calm of the road, but it doesn't seem like people are in a good mood here in Altdorf. I don't know if that's how it normally is, but it sure is different from Nuln.
I would turn at this point to the person who I assume is the expert in everything that I don't know. And if Kruger doesn't know, there's only one person who would. But I'm afraid of asking Siegfrieda questions directly at this point, because the answers always get a little weird. So I think I'll just look in her direction and wait for her to explain of her own volition.
Oh, I'm no expert in people's behavior. Although moods can be affected by diet, the thickness and quality of the blood, how readily clean air is available to them, how much sex they have, all kinds of biological activity will affect someone's mental state. Perhaps the individuals of this city are maybe eating too little, drinking foul-tasting beer, or maybe they're just not getting any.
Well, there you have it. Kruger, do you think it's that there's too much shit, or not enough sex?
I suppose it could be both. Or perhaps, what was it you called it, Siegfrieda? Some kind of miasma here as well?
It's possible there's a miasma over the city. I mean, with this many people, it wouldn't surprise me. It's how infections travel. But ill temper is rarely a symptom of infection, or, and I lower my voice, or chaotic energies. It's more likely that they just, don't have enough exercise, or that they're eating too little meat. They probably need some more salt in their diet.
It's funny, Siegfrieda, as you are saying this and you look around yourself. You were talking about miasmas earlier, weren't you? Yes, there's definitely a miasma. You can feel it on your skin. And it's strange, you look down an alleyway at some of the buildings and almost find yourself having a little bit of a headache. Almost as if the dimensions of the buildings aren't quite right, even though, of course, they are right. Why wouldn't they be right? But yes, there's definitely something in the air here.
I'll comment on it then. Oh, on second thoughts, it's even getting through my mask. Can you feel it, like a film of sickness on your skin?
Can I feel that?
When she mentions it, if you think about it, maybe. It's really hard to tell. Again, you're a bit irritated, really.
You might be right. I know that what I want to do is to get out of here pretty quickly. I mean, we do have places to be that are not Altdorf, and opportunities that await us. So I suppose let's try and wrap things up here as quickly as we can and continue our journey so we don't end up like these people here, because they don't seem very happy.
No, keep your body covered as much as possible. If you have gloves, wear them. Now, this could be something new, you know? Maybe we're not seeing them brawling in the streets or murdering each other, so I'm not that worried. But who knows what the effect could be for an outsider to be somewhere like this for too long.
Indeed.
It could be that they're used to it, whereas we are not. So where do we need to go here?
As you say that, the coach comes to a sudden halt. You seem to have stopped somewhere. You might not know it from sight, but you might know it from reputation. This is the Honigsplatz, a sudden wide opening in the city, a big square, if you will, flanked to the left and right with mighty, towering statues of various famous people from the history of the Empire. They all kind of look the same, really, when you look at them from here, and the statues themselves are old and cracked and covered in bird shit, but still impressive. But yes, something seems to be happening. Suddenly all the traffic's being stopped, and perhaps something from the east is coming? You can't quite tell, but lots of people are gathering around and being told to stop by several Imperial guardsmen.
Kruger, is that a noble? A baron? A count? A marquis? A duke? I will continue to name every noble title that I know.
You know your noble titles. I hardly know half of those. I'll try to see what I can see there. Is there any indication about what is actually happening, aside from someone important approaching?
Yes, there definitely is. You don't need to roll for this, because you can already now see a line of 10, 20, 30, 40. A lot of armoured men on horseback beginning to ride through the square. And then, in a little clearing in the middle of this armed guard, a man dressed in extremely nice clothing, wearing a fine golden breastplate upon his head, a laurel wreath, and a fantastic lion cloak flowing from his shoulders as he rides a white stallion. Could this be... Is this the Emperor? Doesn't the Emperor wear, like, some sort of wreath crown on his head? That's what you think.
That might be the Emperor.
What's the... I'm actually nervous now. What's the decorum? Do we stand up and bow? Do we avert our eyes?
To be fair, it seems like it doesn't matter what you do because no one's paying any attention to what you're doing. Everyone is trying to surge forward. There are shouts of people going, "Praise the Emperor! Praise the Emperor!" One older man, you see, Heinrich, kind of starts trying to force his way forward, saying, "Arms! Arms for the poor!" As the procession rides past, one of the horsemen quickly delivers a swift lance to this man's head, and the old man falls to the ground and suddenly just disappears in the pressing crowd.
Fills one's spirit with hope and glory, doesn't it?
Yeah, really makes you feel good about those in charge. But this is pretty big. I've never been this close to someone as important as the Emperor. We had better keep a low profile. Don't wanna... Yeah.
You know, they'd say touching his skin is enough to cure someone of any ailment.
Do they now?
That's what they say. And I'm not suggesting we go up there and approach, but just imagine what you could do if you actually had a finger of his in your pouch.
So you can have that conversation, but I think Heinrich is gone. I think he is actually trying to join the surge and run forward to get a better look at, like, the noblest noble that ever was.
Where's Heinrich gone?
I was too focused on the Emperor. Oh my.
I was thinking what we could achieve with his skin.
He's quite tall, so you'd probably see the hat, like, bobbing above the crowd.
I think he's making his way towards the Emperor.
Heinrich, come back!
I'll get off the coach and see if I can catch up with Heinrich. This is he did seem awfully impressed by all the all the shiny things and all the the decorum and all the flags and everything here, so I'd better stop him before he gets himself lanced.
Well, Heinrich, you somehow made your way off the wagon, jumped off as it were, and made your way through the crowd. It is hard, though, because there's an awful lot of people, but you managed to push your way through just to meet the wall of guardsmen, to have a nice, friendly individual shout at you, "Back, citizen, back!"
I might be getting a little too close to the point where, I'm trying to peek around. So if Kruger is coming in after me, I suppose he would find me soon enough on the floor as well.
Well, in your case, you get just a slightly less aggressive shove back with a spear. So yes, as Kruger catches up with you, you're not too worse for wear. But how are you feeling? That was a bit annoying. The Emperor was right there. You could have gone and had a chat. Maybe you could become the Emperor's right hand today. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh, it'd be amazing, but I got to see him. I don't know what Kruger's attitude to Heinrich doing this is, but when we finally make eye contact, I saw him. Oh my god, did you see his face and the things? And just almost on the verge of rock star fainting fandom.
Hey, that's really great for you, Heinrich. I say as I come up. But hey, let's just back up a little bit. I think I was talking about keeping a low profile earlier. Maybe you missed that.
Did you see his skin? It's so soft. You can tell, it glows.
Yeah, apparently it'll heal any ailments. But hey, you've seen him now. You feel satisfied? Is this enough? You think you have gotten what you needed here, or are you going to attempt to storm him again?
Well, it doesn't seem like it would matter, because while you're having this conversation, the procession has continued and is now leaving the area. A fine line of an additional 40-50 men on horse following after the Grand Emperor as he leaves.
I'm willing to go along, but I will point, maybe actually just a gentle poke in the chest and tell Kruger, one day, I'll be one of the men on those horses. And then I'll give him a clap on the back and say, I've already got a baron on my side. It's only a matter of time before we're all the way up the ladder, huh?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I'm sure that you will be able to achieve that goal if you keep working on it. But what say you? Shall we continue on our journey? We do have places to be, and we have manners to take ownership of.
I'm going to flash him what I think is the Nuln gang sign for OK Boss, but is absolutely not the correct gang sign.
It certainly isn't.
I'll just look at him and get in real close and whisper, that would have gotten you killed in Nuln. Just be careful with those signs, all right? There's a way to do them right, and there's a way that you really shouldn't be doing.
Oh, a little sheepish, but now fully undersway.
At that, the coach begins moving again, although, Siegfrieda, you're now the only one still seated on the coach. It begins passing the two on the street level. You see the coachman kind of look over, and one of them says to the pair of you on the street, we still have a little way to go. You can get off now if you want. I thought you wanted to get down to the Spokes Inn.
I shout down. Am I getting off, or are you getting on?
We'll be getting on. Don't worry. We'll be right there. Come on, Heinrich.
Yes, my apologies, in a very formal way.
You hear someone tutting from inside the wagon, but the coach people stop to let you back on as the journey continues through the Great Platz, now starting to clear, all the Imperial Guardsmen moving on, and traffic and life returning to the Great Square. Luckily for you, your destination was not too far from there, because the inn you wish to go to seems to be situated on the legendary Street of 100 Taverns, a well-known place in Altdorf, considering it has over 100 taverns on it. It's right near the waterfront as well. Lots of people like to come to these taverns to enjoy themselves. But you're currently stopping off at this big inn, where apparently, if you inquire within, the initial job awaits. That is, of course, if you're still interested. For now, of course, the wagon finally stops. Other travellers begin to leave. You see the maid pop out and then help down the noble lady herself, finally seeing her in aura regalia, sharp red hair, weird silly hat. And behind her, that gruff-looking guard. Finally, that man, the one with the big mop of hair and the long nose. As he exits, he shoots you a bit of a look, Siegfrieda. He doesn't say anything, and begins just making his way off into the bustle of Altdorf, as do the noble entourage, unless any of you stop them in any way.
I do not.
I've got I've got no reason to stop them, but I have a feeling that the Fates are going to get involved and have us run into them again. I'm instead going to go up to the coach driver.
Oh, hello there, mister. We're finally here. Sorry about how things went on the road. I personally thought that thing with the horse shit was a really good bargain, but road wardens, am I right? Ugh.
Well, that's what I came here about, because, of course, the horse was still transferred to your ownership, and I did ask for a replenishment of funds that I put down for this journey.
Well, yeah, that was when we were going to sell the horse, but now the horse is just going to go back to the owners of that coach, who aren't going to be very happy. They've lost a whole entire wagon. Wouldn't want to be in their employ right now.
Could you tell me, I assume you take this road quite often?
What, the Middenheim Altdorf Road? Yeah, we tend to run this a lot.
And I'm talking to him through my beak mask. Are the people of this place often so ill-tempered?
Oh, yeah, well, it's Altdorf, innit? You know what they say? Everyone thinks they're so high and mighty because they're right next to the Emperor, but, I don't reckon they're any different from anyone, really.
And that is why the people here are so foul-mooded, because of their proximity to the Emperor.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Well, why?
No, not all of us have been here before, good coach driver, and so when we arrived and saw so many scowling faces, elbows jostling people, and general ill humour, we wondered what the cause might be.
Oh.
It's just interesting that you're putting it down to the Emperor.
Well, hang on. His friend then leans forward. Now, hang on, my friend isn't saying anything against the Emperor, don't you be saying that. He's just saying that sometimes outdoor folk are just a little bit erratic. I don't know, all the building.
And so, if we were to tell someone of note around here that you were impugning the Emperor and the people of Altdorf, then they would understand completely and say, of course, that's what everyone thinks, because, yes, we're arrogant. We are full of ourselves because the Emperor makes us that way. Basically, what I'm getting at is I would like my money back. This journey has been severely delayed. I made a good deal with you. It wasn't my choice to send that horse back to its original owner. We made a fair deal. And if you're going to make life awkward for me, well, I can make your life worse.
Well, it's time for you to roll an intimidate check. We're definitely being verbally intimidating here.
Could I get one of my party members to back me up here so that I can get some modifier to my skill rating? It's quite alright if they don't want to.
You certainly could. If someone wants to help, they'd give you a 10 to the roll.
I will certainly move up behind Siegfrieda there and stand there with my arms crossed and looking serious, as though this is something that I'm very much in agreement with.
Yeah. I'm happy to sit about, 45 degrees off angle with just my hand on my hilt.
36. So I am... Yeah, I do succeed. I am nearly bang on my modified skill rating, but I do succeed by 1.
The two men look at you, their friendly nature rapidly dissolving as they glare at you with obvious hatred. However, they quibble a little, and one of them goes like, "Fine, you bloody bastard, if you fucking silvers. Hope you choke on 'em." And he throws you a bag, which contains the 4 silvers you paid for the journey.
Oh, I don't intend to eat them, but maybe next time you'll consider offering good, honest travellers like us a place under the roof than making us sit on top of it.
You agreed to the deal.
Safe journey.
And the two drivers mumble to themselves and begin moving their coach onwards, clearly angry.
I'll split my refund among my new friends. So that buys us a few drinks, I'm sure.
You could make quite the crime lord back in Nuln. I'm impressed.
No, I don't think this was my forte. I think I got by on luck more than anything else. It's just when I make a deal, I feel like people, when they make choices, should stick to them, cleave to them. And they were trying to cheat me out of the silver I rightly earned for the salvage of that horse.
Indeed they were.
So they got, as far as I'm concerned, what they deserved.
I tip my hat in approval.
Why do you think there's over 100 taverns on one street?
It does seem a bit excessive.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, how do you know which one to go to? How would you develop a preference for one over another as they all line the river? I mean, I assume it isn't a question of selection of drinks, maybe atmosphere inside? Or maybe one waitress flashes her tits more than another?
Is that a thing here?
I understand in the cities that kind of thing, not just the waitresses. Sometimes you'll find a friendly barman who will just drop trow to let you admire his work. They are a very different people to the countryside. Certainly in Bogenhafen there was nothing like this, but I've heard many tales of the Street of 1,000 taverns and the kind of things that they will plop into your ale if you ask.
I wonder how far we would get if we tried to, tavern crawl this street. How many places, brews might we be able to partake before we would collapse?
That would be a fantastic medical study. As we know, the consumption of alcohol primarily affects the kidneys and liver of the human. And depending on the strength of the alcohol, I would estimate someone of your size, Kruger, might make it 6 taverns before you either had to sleep or you tottered and fell into the river.
One thing's for sure, Heinrich, there's a lot of people who'd like you to come to their taverns. The streets are full of lively boards. Individuals whose job title means to advertise or get someone into an establishment, and already there are several calls for "Come down to the breasts of Meridia, finest breasts and finest beers this side of Altdorf," or "Come down to the old tavern man, for the old man in you."
See, that's the one that'll get his knob out.
No, that first one. What was that one again?
The breasts of Myrmidia. Slightly blasphemous, you think? You're not entirely sure, isn't that God?
But we're not here for church. I would suggest that we go to the tavern where our appointment has been made.
I suppose we are on a mission.
If you enter the tavern, you will find it a lively place. Plenty of people drinking, singing, ordering food. It's not the highest class establishment anyone's ever been in, but it's not bad. The floors are clean, the walls coloured a nice red paint. Quite jolly. You see on one wall a big notice board, similar to many notice boards that are very popular in taverns, full of notices, for those who can read at least. Often some of the notices just have pictures, but generally employment boards are quite common, and there seems to be one here. There's even a dwarf who just comes past the pair of you and begins moving to the board and begins looking over the various advertisements. He seems to be wearing quite nice clothing and have a nice little bag on him. He's obviously someone who operates the message board because he seems to be taking down a message as you speak and swapping it with a new one.
Not the request for valiant mercenaries tried and true that we were arriving here for, I hope.
Actually, as you lean forward, it does look similar. In fact, isn't that the notice? You think it is. He's tearing it down. What does that mean?
Maybe one of us can make a demand. Excuse me! Excuse me!
Oh, hello there, miss. What's the issue?
We were here to respond to that advertisement.
Oh, what, this one? The Great Expedition?
Yes, the one you seem to be tearing down right now. Has it already departed?
Oh, well, yes. 4 days ago.
But we only saw that message probably 4 days ago in some cases.
Well, I think they've been advertising for 2 weeks now, yes.
Well, maybe you need a better system in place so that you take down the advertisements in the outer regions before you remove it from the expedition point.
Well, forgive me, ma'am, but I work in Altdorf. I don't know where you come from. No offence. I'm taking this down today.
Now, the coach driver was right. People like you. Very arrogant.
The dwarf squints a little. You calling me arrogant? I'll have you know the Clan Hammers are a well-established, well-known family. I've been working in this business for 80 years, taking down posters, and you coming here to tell me I'm arrogant?
There's another clan that deals with the putting up of posters. Is it a heated rivalry? When I mention arrogance, you, of course, named yourself the Clan Hammers. Am I supposed to recognise that name? Do you think that I would recognise that name?
The dwarf starts getting quite angry. He begins to let out a long spiel telling you exactly who his clan is. Apparently, for 400 years, they have worked in Altdorf, supplying many noble houses with fine patronage. He begins telling you about his grandfather's grandfather, and apparently one of his grandfathers who was at the Great Siege of Karnak-un-Katsk, wherever that is.
I'll nod sagely. And your great-great-great-grandfather was tearing down posters even during that siege.
Indeed he was. Good, I'm glad you understand. Sorry.
Yes, I accept your apology.
The dwarf looks confused and begins ambling off. You have heard that dwarves get quite irate if you question their clan heritage.
Well, wait. Excuse me, I feel like we got off on the wrong foot. How could I have expected my first meeting with one of the Clan Hammers to go outside of my tripping over my own words in deference to one such as yourself? I mean, let me start again. My friends and I have travelled far to respond to the advertisement, and you're telling us that the expedition set forth 4 days ago. Perhaps you would be so kind as to tell us where the purser is who pays the adventurers to go on this expedition, and maybe the direction the expedition took so we can catch up with it?
Well, I believe the purser would be on the expedition. You know how it is. You get paid when the expedition ends, not before it starts, on account of all the people who'll probably die.
But what about the provisioner? Surely they had a departure point, some mustering ground.
Well, I don't know. It's a bloody crown prince. What was his name? Ergor von Tassenik? I don't even know where he's from.
Oh, Tassenik. Yes, I remember the name. Well, Heinrich. Well, maybe we should... If you know the course they've taken just out of the city, we may be able to catch up if we have some fast horses.
Well, yes, I suppose if all of you got a good fast horse and you ride after them now, maybe you'll catch up with them in, 2 days, 3 days. It occurs to you that already the very act of buying horses, catching up with this expedition, the amount of money that you would have been earning is already dwindling quite rapidly.
I'm thinking over. We've got a plan B, which is commit massive fraud on a empire-like scale. But it doesn't seem... Well, it's certainly not the safest of options. But right now, the cost and risk of trying to catch up with an expedition that we could even just head in the... if we head 1 degree wrong in the wrong direction, we will... completely pass it by.
Indeed, all you know is it was going somewhere in the Grey Mountains, which could be absolutely anywhere.
I'll look to my 2 companions and just kind of shrug. I guess we missed it, but, well, there's Bogenhaven, and there are things we can do there. I mean, yes, it's risky, but I bet this Grey Mountains thing would have been risky too. So, what say you?
Well, there's the small matter of making the trip. I don't know about either of you and your financial situation, but what's the price to get there? Do we have provisions?
Well, we haven't spent our refund yet from the carriage, so at least there's that.
There is that. What do we know about what it would cost to get us to Bogenhaven? I mean, you said that we would travel on the Reich to get there, or?
You would indeed be travelling by a river, you assume. Granted, two of you aren't quite sure how you'd get there, but of course, Heinrich would be familiar. Bogenhafen, is it the best way down there on the Weisbrack Canal? That seems. You think that's where that route takes you? Yes.
That's definitely something that I would know. I'll proffer that knowledge and say we wouldn't have to be on a coach this time. And given how prolific people of my historic trade are, maybe we'll be able to squeeze a silver or two discount along the way.
That sounds good, actually. Why don't we find someone who might be able to give us that ride, the ride that we need to get to Bogenhaven. We can find out what the price is and if we have the silvers to pay for that or not.
You certainly can, although what I will say at this point is that all three of you will suddenly feel a bit of a rumble in your stomachs and feel very tired. You have been riding all night. Maybe it's time to sit down and just get some food before you do anything else. You are, after all, in a tavern.
The smell of food it's quite attractive. I'm a bit hungry. What about you two?
It's definitely the kind of situation where you're not hungry and then someone mentions food and you're like, oh, actually...
I don't eat much, but I'm sure I could eat something. It would probably be for the best that I do.
Yeah, maybe we can get some proper sleep. Maybe, even a real bed instead of having to try to catch naps on the roof of that carriage.
It is a medical fact that sleeping rough for too long will make one's joints seize up, stop moving. But sleeping on a bed that's too soft will almost liquefy the bones over time until they turn more into a jelly-like substance. So as long as we find beds that are just so, I would be in agreement.
Let's see if we can find some hard beds then.
And if not here, there's always the, breasts of down the street.
There certainly is. For now, perhaps you settle simply on getting a table and getting some food in you, which, if you're not aiming for the finest cuisine in the world, probably you can just about cover 1 silver to get all three of you a not too bad meal. And at least you finally sit and have some food and some comfort as you enjoy the tavern for a few moments. As you're doing this, though, something a little strange happens. You see, when you go to pay Kruger, taking the lead here, and also perhaps trying to inquire about some rooms for a night, if needed, something strange happens. You go to the bar, you're talking with the proprietor, and as they leave, you suddenly notice someone else has just come and stood next to you. 2 individuals. You look at them, they seem to be men. One of them may be in his late 20s, the other his late 30s. One's a bit balding, the other has big bushy eyebrows. They're dressed in traveller's clothes, and one of them just looks at you. He begins to scratch his left ear with the smallest finger on his right hand. It's, to someone like you, clearly a sign. The only issue is you have absolutely no idea what it is.
I think you're looking for someone else. I say, sorry, I have to get back to my companions.
The man raises an eyebrow, looking very confused. The other one kind of says, we're not bothering anyone here, sir. We're not bothering anyone. And again, he does the same gesture, a bit more rapidly, looking at you.
And not having any idea of what's going on here, not having seen these people and figuring that the safest thing is probably to just, well, play dumb, because in this case I actually am. I have no idea why they want to interact with me. Although I'm starting to wonder if, could this be related to the man that I found previously? I mean, I do look awfully similar. It's possible, but it would be too big of a coincidence. I'll just push my way forward and try and move past them, not wishing to interact with them any further.
Certainly, you do so, and one of them kind of steps forward a little, and he does it one more time, and he's giving you this very confused look.
Look, I think you have me mistaken for someone else. I know all kinds of signs, right? I grew up on the streets. Let me tell you, I know a thing or two about the kind of signs you're trying to do right now. I do not recognize that. I do not recognize you. You're looking for someone else. I'm sorry.
The man steps back and very loudly says, I haven't done anything. You stay away from my purse. It mainly seems he's quite alarmed at you saying quite loudly, at least to him, things about signs and signals, and he begins sort of backing away from you like, drunk.
Yeah, better take it easy with the beers. Sorry. And then I just shake my head and try to move away.
And you begin moving away. As you do, you turn in the crowd, heading back to the table, and you do see a third person suddenly just sort of briefly in your way. He's got a rather odd face. You think his nose has been broken several times. He's also quite large and seems to be carrying something on his back, something like a crossbow. He gives you a look, and then he looks to the other people, and you see him do a different signal. Something strokes his chin, and then raises an eyebrow, and then he just kind of looks at you, and begins leaving the tavern, and you notice the other two people suddenly, once again, give you a very confused look, and begin following this man.
I just look after them as they leave. What was that all about? I just shake my head again, and begin moving back to my companions.
And you do so, for the moment forgetting about this. A case of mistaken identity, perhaps. Nothing to worry about, as you head back to your table.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the legendary campaign The Enemy Within for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition, published by Cubicle 7. In this first part of the series, we are tackling Book 1, Enemy in Shadows. Joining us as players in this series are none other than Aaron Hammonds from Queen's Court Games and our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music was made by Flowers for Body Snatchers, Word Clock, Metatron Omega, Ager Sonus, Apocryphus, Halgrath, and Northumbria, featuring a number of collaborations with other artists, and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Check out their website at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Nastasia Raulerson, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Ludwig Manford, Bob Lange, Julián, Cameron, Xabier, and Antxon for their generous support. And we'd of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Coriolis there, as well as get early and raw access to all of our recordings. You can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon, as well as play Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember, Skaven are definitely not real.